compliment, thank you. It was really. American author P.J. O'Rourke once described the English as cold-blooded queers with rotten teeth and no sense of humour, who once conquered half the world but have yet to conquer dental hygiene. My mother, who is a prolific author of grocery lists, once said, P.J. O'Rourke needs to behave himself. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and anyone who has ever travelled. Can you remember the first time you went to a different state? Or maybe the first time you went to a different country? Can you remember how you felt? Depending on where you were, you may have felt that the culture was very similar to back home, but just a little different. When I emigrated to the US 2 years ago, I realized there were differences in language, the law, and even attitude. I first realized there were differences in language when I met my brand new American mother-in-law. She kind of looks a little bit like Erin Brockovich. And she said to me, I've always wanted to go to England, but you guys don't talk English. And as my wife likes to point out, we may have invented English, but you improved it. But there are subtle differences between British English and American English. For example, you call the long, green, crunchy vegetable a zucchini. We call it a courgette. You call the concrete slab by the road the sidewalk. We call it the pavement. You call cloudy, cold and rainy bad weather. We call that summer. And when I was a kid, I used to collect erasers. And they came in all sorts of shapes and colours and they were fantastic. I really liked them as a weird sort of hobby when I was a kid. But I forgot that back home, we call them rubbers. And over here, rubbers mean something else. So when I met my mother-in-law, I said, you know, when I was 5, I used to collect rubbers. Your mother was okay with that? Oh, yeah! She used to buy them for me. Really? Oh, yeah, I used to hold them in my hands and smell them. Has that ever happened to you? Not smelling rubbers, but you say something seemingly innocent, and then it gets completely misconstrued, and you think, I wish I had a rewind button, I wish I could just go... Not the sort of thing you want to say when you first meet your mother-in-law. The second thing I noticed was that there are differences in the law. Before I emigrated, I did some research in a local library and I discovered that in Alaska, it is illegal to wake a bear for the purposes of taking a photograph. Kid you not. I can't believe this is happening so often. They needed to create a law. What's going on over in Alaska? I mean, are there tourists creeping into a cave in a big sleeping bear? Lifting the eyelid. But you know, you've got to wake them up. And and luckily, we've got digital cameras these days, because if we were still using Polaroid, it would probably be something like this. But you know, England is not immune to weird laws. We have the Outer Space Act of 1986. This is where a judge in the UK can use reasonable force to turn back an alien invasion of the UK, as long as the aliens don't have a license to invade. Let's look at that for a moment. You know, the English have always had a license when we've invaded countries over the centuries. Were we there back in the, 1800s? Sergeant, are you sure we can invade our 13 colonies? Yes, private. We've got a license. Okay, well, it's more of an artistic license, but, you know, King George keeps his promises. Historically, the English have always kept their promises. And then, how would an alien be able to get a license? Because they'd have to complete an application form, wouldn't they? And surely that should be the deciding factor. We should be able to spot an alien invasion by looking at the paperwork. But you know what governments are like? Oh, it would be difficult to monitor. No, it wouldn't. Just read the application form. That'd be a giveaway. Oh, first name Kevin, last name... And you know the reaction would be, oh, nothing unusual there. Proved. That's how that would start. Also back home, it is illegal to die in the Houses of Parliament. I'm sure some of you may have seen footage of the Houses of Parliament online and thinking, well, aren't they all dead anyway? I just have this image of someone dying and then a cop arriving and sort of, what the hell's going on here? And you reenacting a scene from Weekend at Bernie's, propping the guy up. Is this guy dead? No, he's a politician. See, narcolepsy, lift up ahead. It is also illegal to drive cows down a road between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. unless you have prior permission from a police commissioner. Because that is a major problem in traffic in central London these days. Hordes and hordes of cows going down every day in central, around Big Ben, Policemen stopping them. Are you driving cows down Oxford Street between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Oh, no. It's an elaborate way to recreate an old chicken joke. Interesting. Then, of course, there are differences in attitude. I always see America as being quite positive and forward-thinking and kind of upbeat, whereas back home we can kind of be a bit negative and kind of a bit rare and cloudy. For example, when the British Prime Minister David Cameron met President Obama, they had a little wager. It was the time of the World Cup for soccer, and the bet was, whichever country wins, the loser has to buy the beer. As it happened, both countries had a draw in that match, so they each bought the other one a beer and exchanged beers. Obama gave David Cameron a Goose Island 312, which is a pretty damn good beer. And he said something like, this is a beer made by awesome people, full of awesomeness, and will knock your socks off. Whereas David Cameron gave President Obama, I think it was called Bishop's Finger. And he said, this is a beer that is wet in a bottle and will leave you feeling completely underwhelmed. And I just think, what a great attitude and a way to build Anglo-American relations. So next time you travel, bear in mind the differences in language, the law, and of course, attitude. Mr. Toastmaster.